Welcome back to the Courageous Nerd YouTube channel for another interview. I'm Connor, and joining me is actress Mary Kate Wiles. You may recognise Mary Kate from her role as Lizzie Bennet in the Emmy Award-winning web series The Lizzie Bennet Diaries. Aside from network TV appearances, Mary Kate has also appeared in other web-based content such as School of Thrones, Edgar Allan Poe's Murder Mystery Dinner Party, and most recently a lead role in Wayward Guide for the Untrained Eye, created by the Tin Can Brothers. If you enjoy this interview or any of the others on the channel, please be sure to like and subscribe. So, welcome and thank you for taking the time to do this.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Right. And was there ever a time that you considered pursuing anything else as a career besides acting?
Well, no, although I don't know. I feel like many actors can probably relate. There have certainly been times where it has been very slow and dry and difficult, and that has made me wonder if I should have pursued some other skills in my life. But there's never been a time that I wanted to do anything else in terms of a career. And thankfully, I stuck on long enough through those times that were difficult, and I'm still going at it. So
Yeah, of course. That's obviously great to hear. And I guess just kind of, they always say it's not the most reliable of careers to go into, but I mean,
yeah,
if you knew early on that's what you wanted to do, I guess there's no stopping someone in that
yeah,
position.
yeah,
Um, so kind of coming recently, you play lead role of Artemis in the web series Wayward Guide for the Untrained Eye. And
yeah.
what was it about the character and that concept that made you want to be involved?
Well, it wasn't necessarily the character and the concept, although
Sure.
I love the character and the concept. It was just because the series is made by my dear friends, and
Mm,
I am a part of a group of sort of creative collaborator friends um, that are constantly making things, and it's really wonderful to be a part of. And it took me a long time to sort of find this creative community. But anytime anybody in that friend group, or sort of the outer branches of it, anytime anybody is making something, obviously you hope that you'll be asked to be a part of it because it is just fun to get to
mm,
work with your friends, and B, the work that we are all creating, I think, I mean, I'm biased, but I think it's pretty top notch. And so when my friends, the Tin Can Brothers, just sort of asked me if I'd like to play, the lead role in this new project they were planning, of course I was so excited too. So that's all I needed. But then, of course, and I knew a little bit about the project at that time.
mm.
But then, of course, getting to read the script, and the cast is filled with a lot of other people from that community, although
Yeah.
also some other wonderful actors that I hadn't worked with before, like John Aston.
Mm.
Um, so yeah, it was just a dream. It's always so fun when, your friends ask you to come play, especially when the work that they are putting together is, of such high quality. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's a joy.
And I'm not sure if it's quite the same thing you were talking about, but there's obviously a definite connection to Starkid in
Yes.
this. Yeah. And obviously, Joey Richter is one of the writers, and,
Hmm.
Darren Criss and Carlos Valdez are both a part
Hmm.
of this. So, and I guess you kind of already covered it because I saw an article that described you as being Starkid adjacent. That's,
That's fair. I've heard that. I've
yeah,
heard that description.
that's that's literally the quote. So I guess, and yeah, like, how would you kind of describe, like, wait, yeah, your relationship with that group, like the wider group?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I first met Joey Richter back in 2013 when we
Mm,
did a series called School of Thrones together, which was like a
sure.
Game of Thrones sort of parody. and it did really well. It got millions of views like pretty fast, because it was very topical, and I really liked working with him. I at that time had just been in a web series that was also very popular called the Lizzie Bennet Diaries.
Mm.
um, and so through that, like, the Lizzie Bennet cast was going to a lot of conventions, like LeakyCon and other conventions that the Starkid group was at. So we sort of started to like get to know each other a little bit, and through me working with Joey around that time as well. And Joey became one of my greatest friends and biggest collaborators. I think he and I have been a part of, I don't know, 6 or 7 or 8 projects together at this point now.
Mm.
Um, and he's wonderful, and I love to work with him. And yeah, it's been really nice to sort of get to know him and the rest of that group. Obviously, they have such a rabid fan following, and I didn't know who they were or what Starkid was before I met him. Um, so it's been really interesting to sort of get to know them, and now a lot of them are my dearest friends, and they too are like continually raising just mind-boggling amounts of money through Kickstarter to continue to create these like original musicals, which is so interesting and I think so
Mm.
different from what a lot of groups do. So yeah, they're great, and I'm super happy to be in their, sort of creative circle. And likewise, my group, I have a production group myself, Shipwrecked Comedy. We've asked a
Yeah.
lot of them to be in our things. And yeah, it's just a really talented bunch.
Yeah, and I guess obviously that's kind of an interesting dynamic to have coming into a project like this where you've known
Hmm.
that the creative team for a while prior to. So would you
Hmm.
say you had any more input into your character than if they'd found an actress that they hadn't worked with before?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think so. That's something I've kind of been reflecting on recently in terms of this project. Um, I think, yeah, I think when you just have a familiarity with the creators, it just sort of opens it up to more of a collaborative process than it would be if I didn't know them
Mm.
until, getting cast. Which isn't to say, like, I've been in some other projects. Like I did a film called The Sound in the Shadow a few years ago as well, which I didn't know the creators at the time when I got cast, but we ended up being great friends, and I felt like they really did let me, bring a lot to the table in terms of how I wanted to play my character in that film, Allie. So like that can absolutely happen. But if you are starting a project already sort of on this easy, just having an easy relationship with the people who are creating it, then I think it automatically lends itself to more collaboration, which I really appreciate. um,
Mm.
yeah, it was fun.
Yeah, and I guess one of your main scene partners in Wayward Guide is Steve Zaragoza as
Yeah,
Paul. And
yeah.
I mean, I don't know whether you knew him before, but how would you kind of differentiate developing a sibling relationship with another actor as opposed to your character meeting other characters for the first time? It'd be a different
Yeah,
perspective, I guess.
absolutely. It's funny. I was just thinking about this morning.
Mm.
Um, I have played a lot of sisters
Yeah.
in my career, specifically, mainly Lizzie Bennet is about 3 sisters.
Mm.
But I think Steve is my first fake brother that I've really like had at all. So I did know Steve a little bit. He was in a series called Frankenstein MD, which was a follow-up to the Lizzie Bennet Diaries from the same
Sure.
company, which I wasn't involved in, but so I just kind of knew him peripherally. And but we didn't actually like ever really work together until Wayward Guide. And yeah, I mean, he makes it easy. He's just a very open, warm, fun, silly guy. His character Paul is perfect for him in that
Mm.
it's very much like him. He's just such a fun, genuine, like happy-go-lucky sort of fellow. And so it was really easy to sort of immediately have that dynamic that Artemis and Paul have in the show. Um, and yeah, he's a joy. I really loved working with him, and would love to do it again. He's great.
Right, and I guess also in terms of trying to pin down a genre for Wayward Guide, like there's obviously there's a
Yeah.
comedic background and there's I guess a mystery element, but would you have a
Mhm.
favorite genre to work in?
That's a great question. I don't think I have a favorite genre to work in. I mean, I think ultimately I love to do comedy. And of course, like when I graduated acting school, like I thought, it was dramas only. I thought I was going to
Mm,
be this great dramatic actress, as I think a lot of young actors do. And I do love to do dramas, and I think there's so much value in each. And I will say, like I've gotten to be a part of comedies that somehow find the drama and vice versa. And I think
mm,
that's kind of like an important thing to do in terms of making your stories more human, is to add, if you're in a comedy, adding some drama, or if you're in a drama, finding the comedy. But yeah, it's just so much more fun to work on a comedy. It's
mm,
just like it's just so nice to be in a situation where you're laughing all day, every day, as opposed to, crying or running through the woods screaming or whatever.
mm.
Um, so doing comedies is a blast. I will say, with my group Shipwrecked especially, like we really like to dabble in different genres, and
Sure.
we also like to do mysteries as well. So there's definitely something fun about doing a mystery because you get to sort of, I don't know, just like tease your audience and like bring them along on this fun thing that you hope they'll get really into, and like you hope that they will enjoy trying to crack, and it's a fun challenge to like try and make something that is difficult to crack. um, and so yeah, that is fun, but I enjoy sort of exploring different genres with Shipwrecked, and hope to continue to.
Sure. And I guess you mentioned this person earlier, that being Sean Aston, who's a part of
Yes.
Wayward Guide. And
Yes.
at least from what I can recall that he's been in, I would say it's a different kind of Sean Astin part than people might
Yeah.
have seen. So, I mean, I don't know again how familiar you were with his work, but was it kind of weird to be acting opposite Sean Astin, not really playing a Sean Astin kind of character?
Yeah, well, I am a gigantic Lord of the Rings fan,
Hmm,
and when I say gigantic, like I love the Lord of the Rings. It is the thing that made me want to be an actor,
sure.
and I must have seen those movies well over 100 times. So obviously, this was a dream come true. Which isn't to say, I mean, Sean Astin is a legend.
Hmm,
Obviously, it's Samwise who's the most important for me. But like, I've seen Rudy, I've seen Goonies, like Stranger Things. Like, he's been in so many just truly legendary projects. So I mean, to say that I was like nervous and excited is an understatement.
hmm.
I just like I couldn't believe that this was going to happen to me, that I was going to get to act opposite Sean Astin, who's just truly one of my heroes. And he just couldn't have made it easier. He was so kind and so warm and so loving and open and excited to be there, and wanted to do everything he could to make the scene better. And he just wanted to constantly run it with us. He was not at all like, I don't know, you just sort of hear about or work with like famous actors who kind of keep to themselves on sets, especially on like smaller independent sets like this. And he was not like that at all. He was
Yeah.
so happy to be there. And it was incredible. I was just pinching myself all day. And then at the end of the day, I kind of got a second to tell him just how much his work has meant to me. And he was so open to that and appreciative. And it was a dream. So
Yeah,
cool.
that's really great to hear because obviously, people say sometimes don't meet your heroes. So
Yeah.
I'm glad for you he was able to prove that saying wrong.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
nice.
Yeah.
And again, you kind of mentioned it earlier that you were involved with the Lizzie Bennet Diaries. You played
Yeah.
Lydia Bennet, and I
Mhm.
guess what kind of memories stand out for you from that experience and being involved in
Oh,
that project?
man, I mean, so many. It was unlike anything I've ever done, and probably unlike anything I'll ever do again. It was
Mm,
just such an interesting project to be a part of because, it ran for a full year, and we were essentially shooting it month to month, and all of our characters had Twitters and Instagrams, and people would talk to our characters online, and we could see all of that happening.
Mm.
And that really sort of informed the way we played those characters. And I don't know. Yeah, I just don't think it was such an interesting and singular acting experience to sort of be living out the journey of this show in real time. And obviously, the journey that Lydia goes on is pretty intense for anybody
Mm.
who hasn't seen it. So yeah, it was so cool. And it's something I'm very proud of and very thankful to have been a part of. And from an acting perspective, it was just kind of a once in a lifetime sort of opportunity. And, through all that, it's really led to all of the work that kind of has come since, has sort of indirectly come from me being a part of it. So I'm just very thankful for it. It was awesome.
Yeah, and kind of a bit of a through line I noticed between Lizzie Bennet, and you're also involved with Edgar Allan Poe's murder mystery dinner party.
Yeah.
That's a kind of a
Mhm.
common theme there of reinventing, I guess, this classic literature. So,
Yeah.
is there any kind of pressure in adapting something that that dates so far back that would be so well known?
But I mean, yeah, I am lucky in that I am not a writer and I was not the writer for either of those projects. So the
Mm,
pressure is a little off my shoulders. Although I
sure.
will say that as Lizzie Bennet sort of progressed, I became very protective of Lydia's character and very involved in sort of what was happening to her, which again was a gift that they let me be.
Yeah,
But yeah, I mean, I think because of Lizzie Bennet and its popularity, it became clear that like there is an audience who loves classic literature and wants to continue to consume it in new and relevant and modern ways. And I myself I got a literature degree in college, and I never
sure.
could have imagined that like it would be coming so in handy in
Mm,
my career as an actor. But I think having a good appreciation of literature, of story, only makes you a better actor or a better filmmaker. Um, and in terms of like character, there are so many rich characters to play with in classic literature. And just because, these are stories that were told 200, 300, 400 years ago doesn't
sure.
mean that they're not, still relevant and such great playgrounds to do things with today. And thankfully, our audience, I mean, with Poe Party in particular, we really take some license with some of these literary figures. So it's nice that our audience allows us to do that and comes along with us and sort of suspends the need for it to be completely accurate all the time. And I mean, we've got a lot of messages from, younger viewers saying like, "Oh, you helped me with this English test because I knew who George Eliot was because of Poe Party," or whatever,
Ah,
which is so cool. That's
mm,
like that's makes you feel like you're doing something a little even more important than, not that making things isn't important. I think entertainment has great value, but yeah, it's just cool to know that like the art that you make can help somebody discover something they might not have known before. Something like that.
yeah, and I guess kind of building off of that and looking at your experiences, how beneficial do you think a platform like YouTube is to those wanting to share their content?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it has completely changed. I mean, the whole entertainment sort of landscape has changed so much in the past 10, 15 years and is
Mm,
continuing to. But yeah, YouTube is so amazing in that it allows, it allows anybody to create things and find an audience, which is so cool. And I definitely encourage people to use it. And I think it also provides a way to sort of hone your skills, I guess, if you're a person that's making content, whether it's narrative or music or whatever. Being able to put stuff out there and have people see it and get feedback. And also for us and for me, in terms of the projects I've been a part of, I mean, obviously, as an actor, you're wanting to, well, you just want to work, but like commercials pay the most
Mm.
and TV pays the best. And so like you want to be going after those jobs, but nothing you do will have quite the same effect in terms of building an audience and having a connection with that audience as the work that you do digitally, because
Yeah.
there's just something about that community and the fact that they can just watch your show on YouTube and then click over and talk to you about it on Twitter or make a gift set on Tumblr or whatever. And that's been, I don't know, that's just like so awesome and so fulfilling, because when you make work, you're making it for people to watch it. You
Mm.
want
Of course.
you want people to see it. And so being able to have that immediate sort of feeling of fulfillment and validation, knowing that like doing your work is such a cool experience.
Sure. And I guess part of your answer there kind of sets up the next question a bit, because I guess aside from the obvious budgetary differences, like how different would you say working on like network TV is like compared to being in a web series?
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty different.
Mm.
I mean, I have worked on network TV. I haven't had any role that's been like over a long period of time on a network TV show. I've sort of just
Sure.
popped in for episodes, so my experience is a little different. But I mean, there's good and there's bad. I think the whole conversation is difficult for the actors union to figure out how to protect actors with
Mm.
digital content, because like for a long time Netflix was under the same like contract as like a YouTube show, and obviously like those are very different things,
Sure.
with very different budgets. So it's still something that's kind of a work in progress, but and I obviously we all want to do more TV, and I hope for like Shipwrecked, my group, that we are able to make shows for Amazon, Hulu, Netflix, whatever,
Mm.
if not network TV. Um, but again, like I ultimately wouldn't trade the experiences I've had on smaller YouTube projects for anything. And I mean, it's very similar to like doing independent films, which is great and awesome. But like I said, at the end of the day, like it's a lot harder for independent films to sort of find the audience that you can find by putting your projects up on YouTube. Um, Special.
Yeah. And I guess kind of besides Wayward Guide, do you have any other projects coming up you'd want to mention or tell people about?
Unfortunately, not really, just because of the pandemic. I will say that
Sure.
Shipwrecked had plans this year to embark on our biggest project since Edgar Allan Poe's Murder Mystery Dinner Party.
Mm.
But of course, those plans got put on hold. um,
Mhm.
so we are still very much planning to do that project, hopefully in one, and we are planning well. But that's the main thing. I also create on my own on Patreon. I do an Anne of Green Gables podcast that I'm continuing to work on. And yeah, just looking forward to being able to get back on set and make things again at some point someday. I know my group and a lot of my friends in this community have a lot of projects that we're itching to get back to work on. So
Yeah.
I'll be able to.
And I guess like this is actually the last question I have here, and I've been asking everyone, I guess, a version of the question. And during the pandemic we're all living in, what kind of advice would you offer to fans of your work or of you personally?
Yeah, I think there is a lot of content out there that they can check out,
Mm.
both in terms of what I've done and also just in general. I know I've been trying in the pandemic to sort of catch up on some books and things that I maybe hadn't had the time to do before, but also, if they are wanting to create things, there are still so many avenues to create things. Obviously, audio is such a good way to be making right now, and there is, you know, that's part of Wayward Guide, is there's a podcast component, and we made that this summer.
Yeah.
So like, you know, it's definitely challenging, but hopefully a good challenge, and hopefully, you know, there will be a lot of art that's still able to come out of this time.